My name is Pamela Newenham, and I am a business journalist with the Irish Times in Ireland. And I'm here with Mina Markham, and today we're going to discuss how design is influencing technology. The virtual and physical worlds are colliding right now, as we know, and technology is turning everyday items like cars and fridges into devices that can monitor and communicate. And on that note, we have architects, developers, and designers who are having to think beyond the physical form of an object like a fridge and car, and think about the design of it and how it can communicate and get involved with all that. So Mina, your job as firstly, I guess, tell us a bit about your job in IBM design and how you are having to think about more than just the objects now.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mina Markham, as you said, and my job at IBM Design is I'm a front-end developer, and my job is to translate the designs that our design researchers, our UX designers, and our visual designers translate them into actual living code that then our back-end engineers can make function and make work. And how I do that is I am involved in the design process from beginning to end. I am sort of the translator between the language of technology and the language of design. I go through the UX process with the designers. I help them with their user research. I help them to see what is actually feasible technologically wise, and then I talk to the back-end developers, the engineers who actually make these things work, and make sure that the designer's vision is translated as closely as possible into the final product.
And throughout that process, how do you ensure that there will be good design as part of the final product?
I think the collaboration between all the different disciplines is the key. No one person is excluded or isolated in the process. We have researchers talking to the UXers, who talk to the developers, who talk to the visual designers. So we are ensuring that the user is the center and the North Star of everything that we do. And my job is to make sure that not only, our designers are great, they can make the aesthetics very pleasing, but my job is to also make sure that when it's translating the code, things like performance and accessibility and responsive design, which will help with translating between the different devices, make sure that that's always taken into account from the beginning as opposed to an afterthought.
Okay, and do you think that design-led processes really lead to much better results, or is that a bit of a myth?
I think that it does lead to better results, particularly if you have the process from the beginning. If you were trying to revamp a product or make a new product, having a thought-out process, a design process from beginning to end will definitely ensure that, as long as you're using a user-centered approach like we do at IBM. I think that I've seen our products become better because of it. We've released things like Bluemix and Mail Next, which is coming out soon, which, because of the research we did in the process we followed, we figured out a whole new way to approach something like email in your inbox. And without the research process that we did, without the UX process we went through, we probably wouldn't have come up with that result if we were just trying to design an email client. We figured out the problem was not the email client per se, it was the way that people approached email to begin with. Our users were wanting a better solution to communicate with their coworkers as opposed to just a email client.
So you've said there how good design, improves the user experience, but tell us, how does bad design take away from the user experience?
I think that it distracts from the user experience. A bad design, a lot of people say good design is invisible or should go unnoticed, and I think that what they mean is that it shouldn't detract from the experience. Bad design will distract a user from the goal, the task they came there to accomplish. If something is poorly designed, it doesn't have to be, colors can be distracting for people who are colorblind. If it wasn't designed to take into account that kind of accessibility, that they won't be able to actually figure out if it's just color cues, they may not be able to actually use the product to begin with. Things like making sure that the device is accessible on a smaller device and doesn't take up too much data and takes forever to load on a phone or something. All of those things are encompassed in the design process, not just the aesthetics.
And we've heard a lot in recent years about, design-led technology and, how it's influencing a lot of products. But has there really been an increase in, design-led products, or is it just all talk?
I think there has been a increase. I've seen products like Pinterest and Path are pretty much designer led, and they have some pretty decent valuation. And Instagram before, well, even if after it went into Facebook, was very designer led. And I think that they innovated the spaces they were at because design was put at the beginning of the process. It was taken into account as a continuing process as opposed to an afterthought.
And is design at the moment still like really innovative? And have we seen it, truly break down barriers outside, companies such as Apple and obviously IBM Design as well?
Sorry, what was the question?
Have we seen design, is it still really innovative, and is it truly breaking down barriers, outside of companies like Apple that we know are have design hugely influenced their products?
I think that the best example I can come up with is Nest. When I think about design, I don't think about truly aesthetics. I think about the entire experience, and I think that Nest is a good example of a company who they reinvented something that no one knew needed to be reinvented, just by thinking about the design of the experience itself, of the experience of controlling your environment in your home, and also the aesthetics of how to make that experience more intuitive and more pleasing. So I think that, yeah, we have seen it. I've seen it a lot in the hardware space as opposed to the actual web space. I can't think of any examples right now that have been truly groundbreaking in the web space, but definitely in the hardware space, things like the wearables, definitely Fitbit, and we said Apple, but the Apple Watch, things like that. Hardware has been very innovative in that sense with design focused.
And actually, just on that note, your job, that has evolved and changed a lot, because you would have just had to think about, developing for laptops and mobile phones or cell phones, and now you're having to think about things like watches now as well.
Yeah, my personal job hasn't changed all that much, only because developing for the web and for phones and laptops is very different than developing for like a native app or for a watch. So developing those skills definitely I need to be able to acquire those skills to actually make products for those different type of devices, but being able to design the same product that can be accessed and works for the different mediums it's become quite a challenge for the designers that I work with. Being able to think about not just making a site respond to different devices, but also making it so that you change the primary task or the primary function depending on what device someone's on. You don't need the entire app when you're on your watch. You may just need to figure out what a notification or what the primary function someone's trying to accomplish on their watch, as opposed to what the primary function is for the full web interface. And
should good design go unnoticed? Should you not notice it at all?
I think it should, in a way. Not to say that you don't notice if something looks beautiful or something excites you, but it should get out of the way. It shouldn't be something that bars you from completing what it is you came to do. Now, if all you want to do is, if you came there, it's a gallery site, you came to look at the beautiful pictures, then design should be completely noticeable, and it should incite you and entice you. But it also should make it so that you can come there to do what you came to do. Things like pop-ups and buttons and things, they shouldn't get in the way of the task you're trying to accomplish.
And will we see design more and more integrated into, people's businesses and jobs in coming years, and, as part of developing products? Will design be more integrated into people's businesses and their jobs, that they will be thinking about design a lot more in years to come when they're developing things?
I think so. I think we're seeing more of the designer-developer hybrid, where designers are being able to actually put their designs into code and make them function. And I think the merging of the two is becoming more and more prevalent. You being able to be just a designer, just a visual designer, it's seen as kind of a deterrent. I do a lot of recruiting for IBM, and we definitely look for the unicorns. We look for people who know about the designing process and the developing process. You no longer are allowed to just know one thing. You need to be able to dabble in multiple disciplines and multiple fields.
And just on a slightly different note, we're on the builder stage now, and I know you're part of Girls Develop It and Black Girls Code. So can you tell us a bit about that and how you kind of got involved in all of that?
I have a background in graphic design. I'm a completely self-taught web developer, and the process of teaching myself web development was more difficult than I thought it needed to be because I did it outside of traditional education. So when things like, well, I just mentioned Girl Develop It is a nonprofit organization that strives to teach women how to do software development to kind of bridge the gap, the gender gap in technology. And when I heard about things like that in Black Girls Code, where they are trying to do accessible education, technology education, that was something that I needed when I was trying to learn, get into this field myself. And so I definitely wanted to get involved in any way I could. I ended up founding the chapter that exists in Dallas now because it didn't have one. And I've taught classes in various cities, and I've taught Black Girls Code is about teaching children under 18 how to do software development. So it's basically me giving back and trying to fill the need that wasn't there when I was looking for it.
And what were the challenges you faced in kind of, setting all that up in Dallas and for also learning yourself how to develop?
The challenges I faced in learning how to develop, it was pretty much a challenge that I think anyone faced in learning a new skill. It's just I learned by doing. I sort of stumbled my way through it. Lots and lots of Googling. There's this blog, CSS Tricks, that I think many of the front developers would have heard of, which is pretty much how I learned everything I know, is Googling everything on that blog. The challenge of setting up the nonprofit, I found that there was a lot of interest for not only women, but for men who wanted to have a way to learn web development, but that didn't want to go back to school or didn't have thousands of dollars to go into an intensive program or a boot camp. And so I was able to find the need, but finding partners in the community who would help me do that was a little bit of a challenge. I needed to find space for classes and find qualified teachers who can actually teach the things that the students wanted to learn. And it worked out pretty well at the end. The chapter in Dallas now has about 500, maybe 600 students who are involved. And so once it picked up steam, it definitely had a grassroots effort, but getting the initial buy-in from the community partners was a little difficult.
And what advice would you give to people who are wanting to develop products or build, items? You teach a lot of that. So what advice would you give to other people who want to build something from scratch?
My advice is to just do it. I know that sounds very easier said than done, but my advice would be to figure out a little bit of what you don't know and then partner up with someone who knows that. I am a big believer in continuous learning, so get as far as you can by yourself and then seek qualified partners to help you. I reached out to community members just on a whim about either asking them questions about a project I was working on, or in the case of my nonprofit, asking them for any kind of assistance. When it comes to reaching out to people like that, I always go for the easy yes. Give them something that's very simple that they can say yes to, and you yield much better results than asking for very large favors. People generally want to help. They want to feel like they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, but they don't always know the best way to approach it. So if you can figure out what you need and figure out who can give it to you, approach them with a very easy thing to say yes to.
And so you're teaching a lot of people how to develop, and you're thinking a lot about design. How do you keep up to date with everything and stay on top of everything and always know what's coming next?
How do I stay on top? I do a lot of reading. I am on Twitter probably more than is really productive, but that's where I get a lot of my information from. So I'm constantly reading blogs, and going to conferences like this is very helpful because I get to hear from other creators and other innovators and see what they're doing. And that's how I guide when I start researching when I go home. So basically just continually seeking out new information and figuring out a new way to solve whatever problem I'm working on at the time.
Okay. I think we're coming to the end of our session here. I'll ask you just one final question before we go. What is the best thing about your job and being part of Girl Develop It and Black Girls Code?
The best part of my job at IBM is being able to be involved in the entire the product design process. I've worked in places before where front-end development was pushed to the wayside. We were very siloed, and we were just sort of dictated to, this is what you're going to do, figure out how to do it. But being able to contribute to the final product, how it's built, really fulfills me, and I've learned that it becomes a better product in the long run because things that I have to consider that can probably make or break a site are considered up front as opposed to when I just have to work with what I'm given. Being a part of Black Girls Code and Girl Develop It is more fulfilling than anything I've ever done because I can see other people get to where it took me a long time to get to. I'm helping them to achieve the skills that the goal that they want. So it really warms my heart to see someone, especially a designer who is very intimidated by code, doesn't know that realm. When I see that light bulb click in their head, something, and I taught them that's the best feeling in the world.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Mina. It was great having you here on
Thank
stage.
you.